この電車は1号車から10号車がはやぶさ号市民 Hazardous items are prohibited. ご乗車ありがとうございます。We've stopped at Hachimore.
8分ほどの遅れで運転しております。危ないですから黄色い点字ブラックの内側でお待ちください。3番線到着降り口は左側です。
Alright, so this is going to be a little different than Tokyo, a little bit different than Osaka, but I just took the bullet train all the way north to a town called Aomori, and Aomori is basically the last main town before you get up to the island of Hokkaido, which is the big island that's north of the main island where, you know, all those cities that Tokyo, Osaka, Hiroshima, Kyoto, all those cities are. And this is where you're gonna find a lot more cold weather, a lot more snow. And right now it's snowing. And it's not too cold, you know, it's only, I think, -2, -3 degrees. So nothing too bad. Every winter, every year, I always look for a new place to go where I can experience snow, cold, and just remote conditions. So last year was Norway, I believe the year before was Canada, and this year is Japan. So as soon as I got out here, temperature dropped. Only maybe 3 hours on the bullet train, temperature dropped, and it just started snowing. So I don't know, I love snow, even though I live in Thailand. I love snow. I love cold weather, I love dark weather. I love seeing the sunset around 3 o'clock. I don't know why, but you know, that's my favorite thing. So here in Aomori, goal is just to explore for a couple days and see what kinds of food they have out here and what kind of history they have. And then I'm gonna head straight out to Hokkaido tomorrow. So in Hokkaido, I'm going to Hakodate. I'm gonna spend a week there, and then I'm gonna go to a town called Furano. And I met a few guys at a bar, and they pointed at a map and said, hey, you should go to Furano. So I'm like, all right. So I booked a hotel. We'll see what happens out there, but it looks like it's gonna be -16 degrees when I get there. So I'm excited for that. And then head to Sapporo and head to a town called Otaru. So that's the goal for the next month. Just gonna be in really cold weather, see what I can find. I'm already having amazing seafood, but I heard Hokkaido has the best seafood in all of Japan, so that says something. But so far, this trip has been awesome, but it's about time to start getting a little cold. So it's snowing, I love it. We'll see what we can find. Let me introduce you to the town of Aomori. So this is one of the last major cities right before you hit the island of Hokkaido. And we're going from cities with tens of millions of people all the way to a city with just 300,000. This city is known for apples and, of course, amazing seafood because it's so close to Hokkaido Island. Here in Aomori, there's a piece of history for Japan that I never actually knew about. And there's a site that has ancient archaeological remains of a hunter-gatherer people that stretches back thousands of years. Just 30 minutes outside Aomori is an active archaeological site that is still to this day digging up new pieces of history of the Jomon people. The Jomon people were hunter-gatherers that inhabited Japan all the way back to the mid 14,000 BC. All the buildings and structures that you see here are actually reconstructions of what these scientists believed these buildings to look like. These were designed based on the materials that are available in the area, as well as drawings and studying the framework that's underneath where these buildings actually stood. For example, the structure that's in front of me right now is based on what they found underneath the ground. It goes all the way down to how deep these structures were planted, as well as the specific type of wood, which is how they know what kind of tree and logs to expect these to be made out of. The most surreal part about this whole experience was I was the only person actually exploring the site. It was completely silent except for the sound of snow hitting the ground and the crunching under my feet. And just this moment alone reminded me why I even wanted to come out to northern Japan in the first place. I've been to museums and parks and archaeological sites, but I've never actually been to one where they're still actively digging up pieces of history and they're discovering new things and learning more about the timeline of the Japanese people. It really makes me wonder if these are the ancestors to the Native Americans that we have back at home. Based on what I grew up learning about our Native Americans is that they came over from Asia tens of thousands of years ago, and this site, some of the remains of the Jomon people go back to potentially 16,000 years ago. And I do know that around 36,000 years ago, there was a genetic split between Native Americans and the indigenous peoples from North and East Asia. This is interesting to me in particular because I am part Blackfoot Native American, and that's a tribe based out of what's now Idaho in North America. And it's just interesting because, you know, there's a chance that there's an ancient connection between my heritage and the heritage of the Japanese people. And this is a far reach, probably not the case, but who knows? It could be. Separating Aomori and southern Hokkaido Island is the Seikan Tunnel. So these are separate islands, and there's a strait where the bullet train actually passes 790 feet below the sea, and it goes for 14.5 miles. So you're in a train pushing the speed limit, and you're deep under the water, and you can feel that pressure, and the sounds on the outside are a lot different because you're in this really long, echoey tunnel. And it's just a cool experience, thinking about how deep you are. Just a couple hours later, I made it to a place called Hakodate. So Hakodate is a fishing village with a lot of really cool history, and it's on the far south portion of Hokkaido Island. And the seafood here is just incredible. In Aomori, the seafood was amazing, but here it was on a completely different level. There were a few animals in particular that really stuck out to me. So first is the hair crab, and then the atka mackerel, which is this brown fish, as well as this king crab. And in Japan, their king crab is gigantic. I believe it's the largest crab in the world. And the scallops are much bigger than any scallop I've ever eaten, and when you eat it raw, it is something special. So what I love about Japan in the winter, the forecast is not correct. So when I got to Hakodate a few days ago, I was a little concerned because there was no snow in the forecast. It was just sun, clouds. Weather was actually going to be warmer than when I had left the main island of Japan. Turns out, last minute, the forecast decides to drop to -7 and it starts snowing. So just went to the fish market. They didn't even need to refrigerate their fish. It just froze automatically. And I've actually kind of wanted to see that. I've seen videos in Russia where there's fish markets and they just hang the fish outside. and yeah, no ice needed. So that was cool, and had a really awesome lunch with like king crab and hair crab and scallops and sea urchins for less than the price of a Big Mac and French fries. So that was pretty neat. So I'm just taking a stroll, walking off those calories and heading towards the ocean. So we'll see how today goes. Beautiful day, this weather is awesome, but this is by far not even the closest to the coldest location I'm going to be on this trip. It's a nice refresher to have a little bit warmer weather, but yeah, I'm excited. A couple days I'm heading to BI, and it was the first time I heard about it. I was at a bar and a couple guys told me to go there, so booked my room, heading up there with the bus. Gonna take about 6 hours, but I'm stoked. It's gonna be negative 17 degrees there. The way that Hakodate is set up is it's a city on a peninsula, and it's built all the way up to the end of this peninsula where Mount Hakodate lies. You can actually take a cable car to the summit of Mount Hakodate to watch a beautiful sunset as you look down to the town. One of the problems that came with trying to see the sunset while you're in the middle of winter on this remote island is the weather. The weather kept getting in the way. Every time I would walk out and try and take a picture, it would just be completely covered in fog. I had a few good moments, but it only lasted for a couple minutes before the fog and the snow came back in and covered up the view. The main reason why I came up here was to see the sun set over Hakodate, and I was a little concerned by whether or not this view was going to cover things up, but as soon as the sun started to set, the view changed and the skies cleared up and it was perfect. It's getting close to Christmas, and Hakodate had a neat little square where they started putting up some decorations, and it was nice and quiet and there weren't too many people, but one of the things that was on my mind at this moment was food. I had to go find something to eat, and I was lucky because one of the first things that I saw ended up being an incredible meal. Even though this was mostly a seafood restaurant, there was one thing on the menu that I've wanted to try. I knew that this area was a big fishing and hunting area, and there's a certain type of deer that live in these mountains, and it's the Etso deer. And I had it cooked just a little under medium rare, and it was great. One of my dreams that I've always wanted to see is when the snow meets the ocean. I don't know why, it's probably a normal thing out here, but once I heard about it, I had to see it. So here it is. The snow meets the ocean. It's probably freezing out there. The locals told me if I come back in a couple months, there's gonna be icebergs in the water, but you know, I'm happy with what I'm seeing right now. This is pretty incredible. So yeah. Hokkaido. Honestly, I really appreciated Hakodate being the first stop on my tour of Hokkaido. I was only here for a couple days, but I really did feel like I was able to capture the essence of this town, and this just made me more excited for what's coming next. So stay tuned. The next place I'm going is a town called Bi, and this place is going to be extremely cold, but it's supposed to be a winter wonderland.